In this video, we are going to talk about anatomy of the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is the largest white matter structure in the human brain, containing around 200 million axons. It forms the major commissural pathway between the left and right cerebral hemispheres, ensuring that the motor, sensory, and higher cognitive information is shared and integrated across both the sides. Its Latin name means tough body, reflecting its dense bundle of myelinated fibers. So if you see on the mid-sagittal section of the brain, it appears as a C-shaped band arching over the lateral ventricles. Functionally, it supports homotopic connections, that is linking identical areas in each hemispheres, and heterotopic connections, that is linking different areas between the cerebral hemispheres. Now let's talk about the anatomical parts of the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is classically divided into four parts from anterior to posterior. First, let me talk about the rostrum of corpus callosum. So the rostrum of the corpus callosum is thin and it is a beak-like anterior inferior portion, and it continues with the lamina terminalis, and it connects orbital surfaces of the frontal lobes. Next one is the genu. So genu is the prominent anterior bend, what you can see very clearly here, and the fibers radiate into frontal lobes as the forceps minor, also called as the frontal forceps, and it connects prefrontal cortices mainly for planning, decision making, and social behavior integration. Now the most important one is the body, which is also called as the trunk, which is the long central segment. So the fibers pass into corona radiata to link frontal, parietal, and some of the temporal regions. So it supports the integration of the motor commands and sensory information. And next one is the splenium of the corpus callosum, which is the thickened posterior portion which connects the occipital lobe via forceps major, also known as the occipital forceps for visual information sharing. Also gives rise to tapetum fibers, which forms the roof of the temporal horn of the lateral ventricles and connect the temporal lobes. So all these are the four parts what you can see in the corpus callosum. Next is the organization of the fibers. So first is the radiation of the corpus callosum, which is a fan-like spread of the callosal fibers into each hemispheres. As I already mentioned about the homotopic and heterotopic connections. Homotopic connections, example, left motor cortex is connected to the right motor cortex. And what is the heterotopic connections? Example, the frontal cortex is connected to the contralateral parietal cortex. So this fiber organization allows the simultaneous integration of the complex tasks requiring multiple brain regions to work in a coordinative fashion. Now coming to the important functions of the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum primary role is interhemispheric communication, that is enabling the sensory integration, that is combining visual, auditory, tactile inputs from both the hemispheres. Next is the motor coordination, that is harmonizing bilateral movements, and the most important one is the cognition, that is linking distributed neural network for language, memory, problem solving, and also the emotional processing. These are the main functions. Now let's talk about the development and plasticity. So during childhood, increased callosal thickness correlates with faster processing and better problem solving ability in children. But in aging, what happens is there will be reduced callosal integrity that can contribute to cognitive decline. Now you have understood about the the beautiful corpus callosum, you also need to understand about what are all the surrounding structures which are present near the corpus callosum. Now first is the superior structure. As you can see superiorly, you can see the longitudinal fissure with falx cerebri, and there will be insidium griseum covering the dorsal surface and longitudinal striae. Now superolateral, if you see the structure, you can clearly see the cingulate gyrus separated by the callosal sulcus. Now next, what is the inferior? That is anterior and mid. What you can see is the septum pellucidum attaching to the fornix. Next is the inferior, that is posterior also we can say. What you can identify is the crura and commissures of the fornix attached to the splenium. So these are the most important surrounding structures of the corpus callosum. Now let's talk about the blood supply of the corpus callosum. First is the pericallosal artery, which mainly supplies the rostrum, genu and body. And next is the posterior pericallosal artery, which is also called as the splenial artery, which is a branch of posterior cerebral artery and mainly supplies the splenium. And other arteries are subcallosal artery and median callosal artery from anterior communicating artery. It has a variable supply to rostrum, genu and body. So there is a rich communication and anastomosis between these arteries make isolated callosal infarction very rare. Now let us talk about the clinical aspects which are associated with the corpus callosum. First is agenesis of the corpus callosum. So there is a developmental failure between 6 to 20 weeks gestation. So the symptoms vary in individual patients. So there will be hypotonia, swallowing or swallowing difficulties, and there will be a delayed motor milestones, seizures and poor coordination, and may coexist with other CNS malformations also. Next one is the disconnection syndrome. From surgical section, example epilepsy treatment, stroke or trauma disrupting the callosal fibers. So the classical example is object in the left visual field can't be named because information can't reach the left hemisphere language centers. So other features include right ear advantage in dichotic listening, left hand apraxia due to impaired transfer of motor planning. So these are the manifestations what we will see in the disconnection syndrome. So all these are the important points what we need to know about the anatomy of the corpus callosum.